Hi, I'm a big and I feel like Stevie Ray Vaughan. You can find me at TexasBluesAlley.com.
I thought you were still acting like Max. I'm like, that's kind of harsh.
No. I was doing an impression of Max doing an impression of me.
I thought you were doing an impression of me. I'm like, oh,
wow,
man.
That got dark really quick, guys.
You could have told me you feel like this. We could have worked it out.
Welcome to another episode of the Chasing Tone Podcast. I'm Brian, this is Max, and this is Anthony from Texas Blues Alley, once again joining us in the sweat shed.
Pleasure to be here.
So,
kind of.
Yeah, this week we talk about, what do we talk about? We talk about delay.
We talk about delay.
Yeah, we talk about getting different types of delays, what you would like to use, what I like to use, just kind of like the meat and potatoes version of what we do with delay. We talk about sound versus tone.
Yeah.
How gear and tonality.
What's the difference between gear and technique and
Yep.
licks? What different roles they play in getting your sound.
And we also let Max actually have a guitar this time.
It's true.
Yeah.
Just for a little bit.
Stay tuned for that.
So let's jump into that first question.
A Tone Chaser writes in, my cousin has all vintage accurate gear but doesn't sound like Stevie Ray Vaughan. It doesn't understand why.
I think the first thing that we need to separate in order to talk about this is the difference between somebody's sound versus their tone. So when I say somebody's sound, I mean the licks that they play and the physical aspect of how they interact with the guitar. So if you treat everything instrument-wise from that point out as a separate thing, you could take the same person with the same technique, put them with different instruments and combinations of gear or whatever, and their sound would still be the same. I mean, there's a video of Stevie playing, I forget what kind of guitar it was. I don't know if it was a Les Paul or something, but he still sounded like Stevie, you know? And that's because his sound stays the same because of the licks that he plays and the way that he attacks a string. Your tone, which is kind of defined by everything that's not you, can only influence your sound, but it can't give you a different sound. Right. I mean, it's like your sound going through your tone. So,
like, I'm not going to sound like you, even though we're playing through
exactly
the same thing.
So I think a good way to illustrate this is we've got two different pedals we're going to use here that they couldn't be more different. We've got the Clarksdale, which is typical tube screamery, bluesy sound, and we've got the Pinnacle, which is like your Van Halen Brown sound style pedal. So they're for very different styles of music.
Yep, I'm going through Port City Pearl.
Okay, so that's a very neutral sounding amp. So what you're really hearing is the pedals here. So this is essentially like two very different rigs. And we're each going to take turns playing something, and we're going to play something that's true to our style. So it will be our sound. When I play something, it'll be in the style like Stevie Ray Vaughan. And I'll play it through the Clarksdale and then through the Pinnacle, and the tone will change, but the overall sound of what you hear, it will still sound like the same player. And then you'll do it for what you play, and the same for Max, and I think it'll be very illustrative for people to hear that. So let's start with the Clarksdale here. Let's switch it over to the Pinnacle. You want to switch that one on for me? I forgot. I'm going to switch to a humbucker for this so we can further change the sound. Let me start that part over again.
Sure.
So in the first example, I was playing through the pickup is wired for single coil sounds in the neck position, kind of stratty, and I was playing through the Clarksdale. And then for the second demo, I had it on the bridge with it switched to humbucker mode through a pedal that's designed more for a Van Halen sound. So now let's pass to you.
Okay.
You do the same thing.
Same sort of lick, or
no? You play whatever it is that you play.
Okay. So if I was going to play on bridge, it'd be something totally different.
Okay.
Oops, your neck is a lot wider than what I'm used to.
Yeah. See, I wouldn't even know how to play a lick that like what you just played, and so that going through that rig sounds way different than I could ever make it sound, even though it's the same guitar and exact same pedals. So I think it's a good illustration. Now let's Max do it here. Switch that back to the neck pickup. There you go.
Here's your plectrum.
Careful with that one.
Switch to the bridge. I think that's a pretty good demo because we each have different. I think Max and I probably have more overlap in terms of the actual licks that we play, but the way that we play them, which again is part of your sound, the way that we attack the strings is different. The phrasing is slightly different. And so to my ears, him playing through the Pinnacle sounded way different than me playing through it because what I'm really hearing is his sound, not just his tone. So the answer to the question why the guy's cousin doesn't sound like Stevie Ray Vaughan is because he doesn't have Stevie Ray Vaughan's hands, which is something you can't change. But also,
with expensive surgery.
Yeah,
Modern medicine.
Modern medicine these days.
But the best way to sound like somebody, regardless of what gear you play, is just to learn to play the licks the way that they do. So when you hear somebody that does a good Van Halen impression, or a good Stevie Ray Vaughan impression, or Jimi Hendrix impression, it's only part of that's about the gear. Most of it has to do with the actual notes that you play, and the phrasing of the licks, and the way that you attack the strings. And after you have that down, you will sound like that person no matter what gear you play through, more or less.
Ian Rossiter wants to know about real-life delay settings, meat and potato stuff, not this ping-pong modulator reverse dialing in a good chicken pickin' or a blues rock solo delay, for example.
All right, so you're running through the Euphoria.
Yep.
And then you decided to use a TC Electronics flashback, right?
Yes.
On the lo-fi setting.
Yeah. So I only have one trick with delay. I don't use it that often, but the one trick that I use it for is when I want a little bit of space around the sound, but with reverb, it tends to... I think when you use reverb, sometimes you lose a little bit of the snap of your signal because there's a lot of reverberations and
It softens it up.
It softens it up. Sometimes you want a real crisp sound, but you want it just to sound bigger. So I found delay to be really useful in that regard. A good example of that is if you listen to the album Texas Flood by Stevie Ray Vaughan, especially on the song Texas Flood. The most prominent effect on his guitar there is a delay, more so than the reverb. And you can tell it when he does Albert King style stuff like this. You can hear that little echo like that. And so that's when I first maybe I should experiment with a delay a little bit. So if I ever want to give myself a little bit of a bigger sound without losing some of that clarity, I'll use a delay. So let me just do a quick example of how I would use that in the context of playing this. And the settings that I've chosen here are basically the delay time it's not like real short like that. That's kind of like ambient in a hard concrete room setting, and it's not like super long. So it's right there where it sounds like somebody kind of following you around. Okay, so it's somewhere between that and Okay. And then mix-wise,
and one repeat, you're saying?
And one repeat. I don't do... The kind of delays that I like doesn't have... It doesn't have the same feel, I don't think, when you have a lot of repeats. It's not... That's more what the commenter was asking about. That's not quite what I'm looking for. So I usually turn the repeats all the way down, so I just get one. And then I keep the delay signal. The delayed part of the effect, I keep that fairly subtle. I don't mix that very heavy. So that's the only way that I know how to use delay. But
Gotcha.
You have any...
Yeah, so I would use it totally different for what I do. Got a Captain America strap here. That's nifty. Okay. So if it was, let's see, we're in lo-fi setting. We're going to get off that guy in a hurry. We're going to go up to the bridge because bridge is always better on a Telecaster.
Yep.
Okay, so we're going to give it some repeats. Two different settings.
So it sounded about like 5 repeats.
Yeah, kind of. Okay, so let's say I want, I don't know, it could be maybe even like a praise and worshipy type thing, or just something that has it creates sort of a mood, I guess you could say. So, you know, it's a... G bender, that would have been a G lick.
Would you use this more for chord type stuff or for single note runs?
Both.
Okay.
So you know, if I'm playing like a praise and worship thing, you know, just because it has a texture to it. So.
Even though your settings are completely different than what I was doing, I think it has the same effect in that you can still hear the fullness of the guitar without some of the muddiness of reverb, but it fattens up the having delay with multiple repeats in the feedback. It fattens up your sound in a very different way than the way that reverb does.
Totally, yeah. And for this, I'm on the tape setting. Effects level is probably a little louder than what you would think, just because in a band context, you kind of need the echoes to be louder than what you would think. Delay setting, I don't know. I'm probably 300 and some milliseconds or so, 350 maybe 400. And feedbacks, let's see, or repeats. So
somewhere in the ballpark of 4 or 5.
Right, in the tape setting, you can hear it modulate, so you can actually hear the signal. The echo actually changing pitch.
It wobbles a little bit.
Wobble. So let me hit one note. Nope, hold on. Wrong control. Hang on. Here.
There you go. Now, why would somebody do that? Why would you use a tape style set? Because you, on your own delay pedal, you have one of those controls. So being a complete newbie to delay stuff, why would somebody choose something like that?
It gives more of a texture. It gives more of a surrounding echo. I don't know how to explain it. It kind of gives an effect of maybe like a stereo field in a way.
Okay. Well, if you were out in a canyon and you were yelling, the things that come back to you, you wouldn't hear them at the exact same pitch you yell. I mean, I'm assuming because of the Doppler effect or whatever's going on there. Maybe it mimics what happens in real life a little bit more. I don't.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm not a physicist.
Really?
That has anything to do with
But when you just hold that one note and you hear the repeats, like if that was turned off and there was no wobble in the pitch, you wouldn't hear nearly as much of an effect just holding that note as you do with that.
Let's try this real quick. It'll take me 2 seconds. So let me swap out that delay pedal.
Okay.
And I'll show you.
Okay.
Okay, so I've put the Faux tape echo made by Wampler Pedals. Go to wamplerpedals.com.
I've heard of them.
So So what on this, I put this in here because I can actually defeat that modulation. Right?
Oh, okay.
So just to kind of show you the difference without the modulating echoes, they do sort of the same thing on the chords. Get a little more modulation. So let me just turn off the modulation entirely.
It sounds like the delay effect is less evident with the modulation is disabled, which means that in order to hear the delay as much, you'd probably have to increase the mix in favor of the delay.
You could.
So modulating it maybe allows you to use a little less of the delay in the mix.
It kind of fills in space around the chord. So I mean,
Okay.
let's turn the level up and put that to the test here.
So basically, I was switching the level, which is the amount of delay mixed in with your clean, from about there to there.
Right, with the modulation.
And I was trying
so-
I was trying to get the sound of the delay to
Right.
be just as evident. So with the modulation, I could turn it all the way back to here, and I
Right.
could still hear that delay. It was
Right, so you had to you turn the modulation on. The delay level up for our podcast listeners.
Yeah.
While the level up while the
modulation
modulation
was
was off, and then you would turn it down with the modulation on,
Right.
to see if you could sort of mimic that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Now there is a trick when it's off. Is it off right now? It's okay.
Yeah.
So, and you'll see a lot of guys, they'll bend the neck.
Now, was this guy's name G? Because I've heard of the G bender.
No, I mean,
Thank you.
all I'm really doing is just, I mean, you know the trick. It's just,
Yeah.
I'm just pulling back on the neck a little
Yeah.
bit while I'm holding the guitar with my elbow. So,
Right.
you know, and it's
So
just,
if you don't have a whammy bar, that's kind of a way that you can get a little bit of that in there.
if you do that enough,
Yes.
I mean, the neck will come off.
Not
Right.
responsible for the
But
safety
yes,
of the guitar.
Yeah.
you can do a nose dive.
Note to self: don't bring my own guitar next time.
But that's a good cheat if you know you're using a delay that does not have
Right.
modulation. Just if you're playing your chord, just kind of pull back on the neck.
That's cool. I never thought about using that trick that way. Now, Max, you said you have a way that you said you use a delay pedal a lot.
Yeah,
right?
yeah, I do. To fat up solos.
Oh, I'm sorry. I
go
don't
ahead.
mean to cut it. I just
No,
realized
go
that there was two ways I wanted to show you.
Yeah.
So sorry, man.
You should be. My one time to talk.
I promise.
Nope.
I promise everybody I will give him another chance. No
But
hate mail.
after everyone else has had a chance.
Everybody else has a turn, then you can go.
If there's anybody in the audience that wants to use the delay pedal before Max, just write us.
So James Burton, let me pick that name up real quick. Oh, okay. Yeah, so James Burton actually showed me something once on this delay. Not this box, but it was still the
Right.
Faux tape echo, right? And he's like, what I want is like one echo, I want just a faint second one, and just a tiny smidge of a third. Like
Okay.
on a slapback. I'm like,
Yeah.
okay, I thought it would just be, like he was it was so precise
Yeah.
to his ears that what he was looking for in an echo.
Was he basing that off of something he had played before?
Well, he used to play for Elvis.
Well, I'm saying
So-
like a certain device that would give that. What would he have been using where he got that
I didn't,
sound? in
I
his
didn't
head?
ask him, but
Okay.
he's played for everybody, including God. So,
Yeah.
pretty much.
Throw my picture up with him. Bam.
Why not? Why never my picture?
You didn't ask.
I know.
Should let me use the delay pedal.
Ba-bam. All right.
Point taken. Okay. So just you hear
Yeah, you just hear the hair of the third one, but not much else.
I'm going to turn the clarity up.
This is the worst horror movie you've ever seen.
So it's sort of that.
Kind of like Slapback Plus, a little bit, you know, just a little bit more.
So yeah, I mean that's the other way that I would use it. And I don't always use that.
It's interesting that he was so precise.
Yes,
You know?
he was very precise on exactly what he wanted those echoes to do. So,
Are you sure?
well, no one else is here.
Nobody else has volunteered.
Does anybody else want to go?
Hey Bob, you want?
Oh man, no respect.
All right, so Max
My wife's home. Let me see if she wants to play real quick.
Max is turning up the repeats. He's lowering the shades.
What else?
I'm sorry, shade. That's a different episode.
Can I have a pick? Am I allowed to use that too? Since I'm allowed to use the pedal now?
Boy, you're really...
I'm making friends.
Oh, let's turn. So everything's upside down.
Yeah, it's a little backwards.
So I'm playing like a Hendrix thing. I can do just like lots and lots of space there if I'm playing like a long note.
Let's for the podcast guys. Let's discuss what you got, how you have it set. So your level is about 11 o'clock. Your repeats. You got about 5 repeats on that.
Yeah.
The shade is down,
so it's a little darker.
so it's not really a... Just play something quick so we can compare.
Yeah.
Just dull enough that it doesn't interfere
Right.
with the main note that you're playing.
Yeah. So that's pretty much it. I'll tap it in a little bit quicker, just to add some fullness of solos. It can give you and make you sound a little bit faster playing than you really are sometimes. It's a little cheat. And if you go really fast, let's say you're just really ripping, you already have a lot of distortion on anyways. It's really quick. It's almost like an echo, but it'll just add some oomph to your solo. Almost like a simple.
Cool.
Yeah, so it just gives you a little bit more oomph when you.
Brian Setzerish.
If you had
when you need it.
If you had just played something normal with that setting, I wouldn't have thought that it could sound as good as what it did just now when you were playing it. Like what you were playing really kind of maximized the value of those particular settings right there. I never thought about using a delay pedal like that before.
Yeah, and like I said, the cool thing with especially like any delay with tap tempo, you can change the settings on the fly. Yeah. If you're feeling it, just thumper it, and you're good to go.
And that's with the modulation off.
Yeah,
I'll try it with a bunch.
I keep it pretty low anyways for modulation.
Yeah, I mean, as far as modulation goes, if you don't have a lot of echo, you're not going to really hear a whole bunch of
so
it.
that's a good... This actually turned into kind of a user's manual for the Faux tape echo. If your overall delay is kind of, subtle, you're not going to hear the modulation as much. So you'd hear it more if your delay time was longer.
Because you have the echoes kind of almost
Right.
bouncing around each other.
Gotcha.
I don't know what this is, but that's probably something.
Yeah.
So
When you turn on the delay pedal, that's a good way to let the audience know what you've done. Like,
Stay tuned, something's coming. Danger!
It's either out of your treading water. I'm not sure. What do you got?
well, at certain gigs, it's hard to tell the difference.
So yeah, that's not to repeat myself.
Oh!
Well, that's how I typically use it. Do something really quick, or I'll do something a little longer if I'm stretching out some notes. And
Right.
especially with the vibe, it sounds really cool with a longer delay.
Right. Now, can you do the Albert Lee thing? Do you ever do that?
What is that?
I've seen this trick before, but
Yeah,
I don't play like that.
It's a little difficult to set up, but basically you're playing off the echo, and so it sounds like you're playing twice as many notes.
Oh.
So I might be able to set it up. Maybe.
Are you sure? Am I done yet?
Anybody else?
Maybe. Let's see what we got here. Okay, so we've magically replaced this with the awesome TC Electronics Flashback Delay and Looper. which, by the way, does do tap tempo, by the way. Pretty cool trick.
Yep.
Check their website for more info. So
TexasBluesAlley.com.
Exactly. 12 free months if you use if you use the member code. Brian Wampler is an awesome dude. Right? No?
It's void in all 50 states.
Okay, so what I did, I set this for about this time. One repeat, as clear as I can, so I don't want like an analog delay necessarily.
You want it to be as close to the sound of what it is.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep.
Possible.
Yep. Yep. So, and so what I'm going to do is this. Basically. Let me make sure I get this timing right, because the timing is everything in this trick.
That's a pretty cool trick.
So that's like an Albert Lee type of thing. So he's much better at it than I am.
That's a situation where tap tempo could mean the difference between
absolutely
nailing it and not nailing it.
Yeah, and really, like having subdivisions too, because I don't know if that's like the triplet or it's probably the triplet of some sort. So, but yeah, so if you play it in like in the same rhythm, like if you're playing quarters of it, it doesn't work. So if you're like. So it has to be off of that.
Right.
No, you see how I got off time there at the end. So you got to be dead on your timing.
So the using the delay pedal like that is actually harder than the notes themselves.
Yeah, in fact, I've read in interviews with Albert where he would say, like he thought he had everything set up and he got off time just enough or it wasn't working right, so he just didn't do the lick. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So you got to be right on the money with it. So, but it's a cool trick.
Very cool.
So
hopefully those are useful delay tips that don't fall into the what are the words that he used? Well, we won't repeat what they said, but something more organic.
Ping pong modulated reverse blankety blank 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 blank.
We didn't do any ping pongy or reverse stuff, so hopefully that's usable.
All right, so hopefully you guys got a ton of great tips out of this episode. If you have any questions, comments, if you're watching this on YouTube or you're watching this on Facebook, watching the video in any way, then make sure you comment below. And if you are listening to the audio podcast, make sure you email podcast@wamplerpedals.com. Also, don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel. Check out Wampler Tone Group on Facebook if you're into talking about gear. And so for Max and Anthony from Texas Blues Alley, thanks for watching.